don't just try to solve people's problems until you understand what they are. And I think no matter what you're selling, no matter what you're building, no matter what you're doing, take the time to understand your person, listen to them, find out what their needs are, and then seek to address those needs.
Welcome to the Curious Builder Podcast. I'm Mark Williams, your host. Today I'm joined with Ryan Lipchek from CBUSA. Welcome, Ryan.
Hey, Mark. Thanks for having me.
So where'd you fly into from today?
Cleveland to Chicago to Minneapolis was the route.
Wow, I'm glad you landed in the best state, Minnesota.
I'll tell you
Wait
what,
a minute, best state in the country.
It sure is. It's been a great experience so far. The lunch meeting we just had was fantastic.
Yeah, I thought it'd be a little different. Maybe we'll start there. We'll talk, obviously, so that people can get educated about CBUSA for just maybe a few minutes first, and then we'll dive into that. So why don't we give our audience, a lot of them here locally might not know who you are, but across the country, CBUSA is a pretty household name. Just give us a little intro of who you are, about you personally, and then a little bit about what you do.
Heck yeah. Thanks for having me. So 20 years ago, CBUSA was started in Northern Virginia, D.C. with a bunch of forward-thinking builders that said, hey, why don't we do something different? Why don't we all come together? Why don't we work on things together, get better pricing, better quality, better service? And they did. They found that it worked. And they were forward-thinking enough to realize that, you can't just have that lone wolf mentality like a lot of builders have. The high tide raises all ships. Let's work together like they do in other industries. But, in our industry, we're kind of more everybody sticks to themselves.
We're kind of archaic that way. I think the new generation is definitely changing that. I think super networking groups, builder 20s, contractor coalitions, locally, I think that's really eye-opening. But
we talked about that in our meeting today. That came up.
Yeah.
The new generation is definitely less archaic. But over the last 20 years, CBUSA grew from one market there in Northern Virginia to 36 markets around the United States of 750 builders and 1,300 vendors and 25 national manufacturer partners, and all that together with the fifth biggest builder in the United States, and we help builders all around the country get more profitable. So we're excited to be here.
I mean, that's super cool. So you basically go into a market. Let's just take Minneapolis, Minnesota, which we don't currently have a CBUSA. And by the time this airs, hopefully we will. But essentially, you put together anywhere from 15 to 30 builders, and collectively the buying power of that group then elevates their buying power so they can, in some ways, buy and purchase and strengthen relationships like a national builder would.
Well said. That's exactly it, yes. And it's builders like you that get us started in all these markets. We meet somebody that's fantastic at what they do, that's connected to people, and they introduce us to other builders and say, hey, we got to bring CBUSA to Scottsdale with Rod Cullum and Brad Levitt, or to Austin, Texas, or Cleveland, Ohio, or whatever. And just we're going to be in Minnesota because of your connections here and your ability to get us into a meeting like we had today. And then the message kind of takes care of itself because it's real. There's no smoke and mirrors. It's a good program, and if we get great builders together with great vendors, there's a lot of savings and a lot of great things that happen for everybody.
Let's go back to the beginning before we talk about even today, because I think all these things are going to be helpful. But going back to the beginning, talk to us a little bit about that first group and why they were. I think they were being kind of run out by the national builders in the D.C. area. Is that right?
Yeah, the whole D.C., Northern Virginia area, it was dominated by some of the biggest builders in the country.
And so they just couldn't compete on price-wise?
It starts with land. They gobble up a bunch of land at good prices, and then all of a sudden there's not enough land left for the smaller guys. That's kind of where it starts. Mm-hmm. But then better pricing, all that stuff, which means that their end product can be sold to the consumer at a much less price, where us as custom and independent builders don't have that leverage, don't have the footprint, don't have the volume, don't have all that. So they established, what if we gave ourselves that? Well, how do you give yourself that? You got to team up with other builders in order to achieve that. And they did. And now it's become we've got better at it every single time we've done it.
Because they've done that. They did that for, I believe you said 94 to about 2004. And then the original founder essentially said, hey, we're onto something pretty amazing here. Yeah. He stopped building, and then he basically started, what is it, franchising? Like, how do you describe kind of the expansion of CBUSA across the United States?
There's a guy named Bill Smithers that was our CEO and founder, and he's University Homes in Northern Virginia. And his partner continued to run that, but he stepped away because so many people started asking him, how are you guys doing this? That first 10 years that they were doing it, before CBUSA was even founded, what are you guys doing there? We want to do it through Builder 20 clubs around NAHB and all that. So he said, okay, well, there's a lot to it. You have to build trust. You have to get the right builders. You have to do this, this, and this. Like, I can't just tell you how to do it in a phone conversation. There's more to it than that.
Right.
I need to teach you. So that's when the idea of CBUSA was born. And they said, okay, well, if we could do it in Northern Virginia, let's go do it in Houston, and let's go do it all over the place. And it's really been a eye-opening experience to see what builders pay for things and how they were able to compete with the bigger builders by working together.
Out of curiosity, what does the CB stand for?
Used to stand for Custom Builders USA.
Okay.
But now we kind of dropped the custom builders part of it. We just have the CBUSA because we're not just for custom builders. We're for, we have builders anywhere in our network doing a few homes a year at, great, huge price points like you build and a big point like Brad Levitt builds and like today at our meeting, there was a couple guys that built $40 million homes. Mm-hmm. Up to builders doing 300 or 400 homes at a much lower price point.
Right.
So we figured custom builders didn't really apply anymore because we don't want people to think it's just for custom builders.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think you described it well in the sense that I always think, I guess, of an ecosystem like an ocean. Like you need small fish, medium fish, and big fish. And is that really an equivalent analogy for the sense that like you need small, medium, large, and it's really that mixture of builders that represents a good foundation for a group?
Exactly, yeah, because they all bring different things to the table, especially when it comes to purchasing. Certain guys are buying the big, huge, crazy, top-of-the-line faucets and fixtures and all that stuff, and other guys are buying more volume of those, lesser expensive. So the breadth of product is really interesting to manufacturers, and that's what the different builders sitting around the table in every market really represents to us. So, and they all have different ideas too. They run their business differently. So when you're talking about a think tank of great builders getting together and bouncing ideas off each other and high tide raises all ships like we talked about today, everybody gets better. Well, everybody brings different things to the table. And that's one of the cool parts about it. Everybody brings their thing and everybody gets better. And there's, it's eye-opening because you see the guy that builds a couple homes a year sometimes is better at certain parts of his business than the guy that's building a whole bunch of homes a year, and they feed off each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it seems like there's a lot that goes into it. There's obviously your vendor relationships, if you will. Obviously, networking is a huge part of it, and then really, I guess the other side of it is the vendor. What does the vendor get out of it? I think a lot of people, when they hear this program at first, they think, well, this sounds really great for me. But we have, every builder would pretty much pride themselves on great long-standing relationships. And I know you're a relationship-based company because you've said before that like you guys don't do a lot of advertising. Everything is based on referral. Well, you can't have a referral-based network if you're not into networking and really treating both sides of the equation properly. So talk a little bit about how the vendors, and I keep saying sponsors, but it's really the vendors and your trade partners also benefit from this group of builders in each market.
That's a great point. It starts with the builders whenever we start a new market, but we realize, and you know this better than anybody, Mark, that you can't build a house without great vendors, suppliers giving you the material, without great subcontractors and trades doing it. And you're loyal to a lot of those people, and we get that. So we learned that a program that's really all about the builders and not good for the other important part of our industry is not going to be very long lasting. It's going to be short lived. It's got to be good for everybody. So how do you make something good for everybody? You got to have it good for the builders, good for the vendors. So when the vendors join our group, they have great unparalleled access to that whole builder group of 20, 30, 40 builders, whichever in a market. They can get to them. They can sell them new products. They can teach them new things. They can build that brand loyalty. And it's great builders that are going to pay them on time. That's huge. Like vendors in our group that are guaranteed to get paid on time from the best builders, and they're going to go make money on their job. This is what we always talk about. Our builders run a great business. We're owned by Builder Trend out of Omaha, Nebraska, a software company. So you use that, you're a user of Builder Trend. You love Builder Trend. And the reason is because it makes you more efficient. It lets you be a better business owner because you're running a great business. It's great for your homeowners because the job gets done faster, gets done on budget. You're able to do all the different things because you use that construction management software, which
I think as the projects get more and more complicated, we use Builder Trend And it's amazing that it's able to take kind of this big spider web of information and consolidate in a single point, so that not only can we manage it and use it, our clients can, but obviously our trade partners and vendors as well.
Exactly. Everybody wins when you're communicating, and when you're communicating together, the products get distributed on time, and you can allocate for that. And then, at the end of the day, you have a job that's running smooth, and the vendor can come and make money on your job because he knows the material's going to be there. They're going to have the house to themselves. They're going to be able to get in and out, make their money. And that's, we were talking today about labor. I mean, labor's tough. Labor's hard to get. There's only so many people. What was the stat you said today? It was like for every 7.
Yeah, I think recently we had someone on. It was like for every 6 or 7 master certified plumbers that are retiring or leaving the field, there's only 1 journeyman to take their place, and that's similar across the board for electricians as well as HVAC. And I guess where I was going with this is that we are definitely going to, we already are in a labor pinch. Mm-hmm. I think you guys, over the last couple of years, I think COVID taught us a lot about, allocation and, supply chain issues. No matter what industry you're in, building wasn't unique in that, but it really highlighted where we were weak. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things that you highlighted that by being the 5th largest builder collectively of, I think you said there's 750 builders in the group roughly.
CBUSA, yep.
And so now if you're the 5th largest builder and you go to James Hardy and say, hey, I'm missing, 2 squares of siding, if your 5th best customer in the entire United States is asking for a product, you're probably going to get to him pretty quick. Is that accurate?
That is very true. A lot of good things happen from it. And, we do 15,000 homes and $10 billion in annual revenue, which puts us as the 5th biggest builder in the country. So a lot of our manufacturers, we're one of their top couple biggest accounts nationwide, which is cool because you put builders that normally don't have a direct line, like to the CEO of a big company or the top people at a big huge manufacturer, but now you do. And so if anything, if you need them, you put yourself on the radar. So there's savings, there's networking, there's all that stuff that comes and that's another great value too.
Right. Well, it's interesting because I think a lot of times people are excited about the bottom line or the sale, but it's so much more than that. I mean, I guess we already highlighted some of those huge benefits. Walk us through a little bit, because I know a lot of people are interested in understanding like how CBUSA comes to a market, and it all sounds good, but how do you manage existing relationships? Because I know like lumber yards are usually a big one. Let's just say you're building $1 million house, your package in our market is probably around 150, 200,000. So that's 20% of the overall package is coming from the lumber yard, and they might maybe more, maybe 300,000 if you factor in windows, siding, trim, hardware, doors. And a lot of people have multi-decade long relationships with these partners. Walk us a little bit about how you navigate that so that both parties feel good about essentially going in the next evolution of where your building is going.
Yeah, it's not easy. I mean, this is definitely a relationship-driven business, and a lot of times builders feel like, lumber supplier, for example, that sales rep is kind of an extension of their company, and they've always gone through it for a generation, 2 generations, 5 year, whatever it's been. And some of that stuff, you just have to work through. And we get great builders, and then we when we enter a market, we get great builders. That's where it starts, and then we surround them with the vendors that they tell us that they already use. Nobody knows the market better than those builders, better than you in Minneapolis. So who you tell us in all the key phases of construction, who are the best vendors. We go talk to them. We bring them on as vendor partners. And we talk to them about, hey, we want you to be a part of this, and it's going to be good for you and good for the builder, and manage those things. And, sometimes they're a little apprehensive at the beginning, but they realize that if they embrace this concept and come in, it can get them more business. It can get them more, all the different things that we talked about. So it ends up being a good thing.
I was explaining it to someone after our meeting today. Let's just say we'll pick ABC. Well, actually, that is a real company. So let's go XYZ Lumber Company. And so XYZ Lumber Company, let's say they represent 5 of the builders in a group of 20. Yeah. And what's in it for them? Yes, their overall margin or their overall profitability might be less per stick. Maybe. Yeah. Maybe not. We'll get into that in a minute. Because now they're being essential, but they're now also getting access to 15 builders that they don't currently represent. So yes, they might they're going to make it up in the aggregate, right? Because now you have 15 or 20 people in this example that are now going to buy from that lumber company for over the next 6 months or a year, or however long they've locked in prices. So they actually just gained 10 customers. It's not like they lost 5, but they gained 10.
That's right.
Is that accurate?
Look at you. You're like a purchasing group guru now.
Well, I've heard this twice in the last 2 hours. Turns out if you hear things multiple times, it really sets in.
But that's right. That's what's in it for them. More business from the best builders. They're going to pay them on time, and also an opportunity to potentially go be a better buyer. That's a big thing. They can go, when we look over the headlights and we tell them, here's what we're going to buy as a building group in this particular market over the next 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. They can go procure that. They can take a position on it, but which is better than they can usually do, because before, other than what CBUSA does, they're kind of out just seeing what every builder's doing, trying to get a beat on what's coming. Where if we actually tell them in a very organized way through our software, here's what's coming, go take a position on this amount of lumber, they love it, because then they could go buy. So maybe to your point, maybe they're losing a little bit of profitability, but usually it's not too much because they can go buy better.
Right.
Which then pass that savings down to our builders, and then we can all win together.
Right. I like that. I also think that's really unique in the sense that they're playing the market, if you will, but a small builder like I am. We build 4 to 5 high-end homes a year and a handful of remodels. Obviously I'm designing with my clients. I'm, working out. It's sometimes hard to predict how many homes that I'm going to do. I'm not a model home builder. I think of a mini regional builder that's maybe doing 100 homes. I mean, they know they're doing 12 starts a month. I mean, they've got a pretty regular cadence. Mine might move the needle a little bit bigger at one time because it might be a much larger project. I can't always predict when they're going to fall in. You had mentioned something I thought that was interesting that brings clarity, because usually we'll get a quarterly call from our sales rep like, hey, what's coming up this year? They're just trying to kind of see. I'm sure they have a little tally sheet that's kind of telling, hey, of my 20 builders, Mark is thinking he's got 2 to 3 maybe this fall. It's not 100%, but it allows them to get some sort of accurate indicator of the future. With your system, I believe you're checking in with us once a month as a group, and we're reporting where our sales are at, so that you can now go back to the lumberyards and say, hey, with this group, you've got 300 starts in the next 6 months, and now they can take super aggressive money-making positions that ultimately will yield them more money, I would assume, if they're smart.
Exactly. You summed it up. And yeah, because things are always changing in our industry too. So like the communication aspect is huge. So like just because you tell us, hey, Ryan, I'm going to have my next lumber purchase is going to be in whatever, it's going to be in September, and then I'm going to have another one in November or whatever. Things can change, municipalities, permits, financing. So, it goes back to just communicating with you and us communicating with our vendors. So you guys are great builders. All of our builders around the country are the country's best builders. We don't come in and try to make you a better builder of home. We try to help you become a better purchaser of materials, which you take all your skills and then you combine them with our ability to run purchasing groups. And we're all builders and suppliers and manufacturing people on our end of CBUSA. But when you put those two things together, now we kind of help you put those things into place where we can all buy better, all be better at what we do. Everybody get a better price. Everybody, the communication aspect through our process, and that's why having all these different builders is good. Because if one builder might have 4 homes a month, another builder might have 10 homes a month. You might be popping in one huge house every 3 months. Well, you put all those things together, and one of your houses is equal to 10 of those smaller ones potentially. So you put all that together, and that's why the
strength in numbers,
varying amounts of builders is key. Yeah.
That's interesting. How out of curiosity, how big is CBUSA in terms of managing all this? Because one of the questions that came up today in our roundtable was, how do you support the builders in each one of your markets, behind the scenes? Because you guys vet a lot of, you're having all these conversations with these one-on-one interviews. Talk us a little bit about that process. This episode is brought to you by Pella Northland. For 19 and a half years, I've been building homes, and 95% of all of my homes have used Pella windows. I couldn't be happier to call them a partner in our builds and our remodels. Whether you're an architect, a designer, or a remodeler, I'd highly recommend Pella windows. They can fit old homes, new homes, reclaimed, commercial, and really everything in between. Pella is a company that we trust and that we recommend to our clients. Additionally, in management, Peter and Ed have just been absolute fantastic people to work with, as well as mentors to me personally. So when it comes time to look for a window, I'd highly recommend Pella windows. Find more at PellaNorthland.com. Also, if you're interested, you can hear episode 1 where I interview Peter and Ed together for a great listen on business and Pella windows.
Yeah, CBUSA is almost 50 people. So we have National Contracts Department and Operations Department and national vendors that manages our relationships with Ferguson and Beacon and L&W, and the national contracts manages the Kohlers and the Warehousers and the James Hardys, all those type of, and then we have operations team that comes in and runs all those meetings, sets them up, plans them with you guys, with our vendors. So it's a lot of work. It's that's the hard part. But we have a great team of people that has that industry experience. So when we represent you, we feel like we do it extremely well, where you guys are proud to have us represent you, and we know what we're talking about, so we come in.
Well, and I think you had mentioned a lot of you, and I think even yourself. I mean, you've been in the construction industry since '97, and who was the gentleman that we met today from Wisconsin?
Andy Cajun,
Andy, but he was in the lumber business before. So you typically look for either past or current builders, as well as maybe purchasing or people that are familiar already with what they're doing, because they then understand the builders. I think that's probably why builders and lumber yards have such a symbiotic relationship, because they're so tied into the day to day. I mean, we might place an order, but ultimately we're talking to our lumber rep all the way through the project. A lot of my homes will take 12 to 16 months to build. And so, I mean, you're spending a lot of time with that single rep, unlike maybe, let's say, tile. You might see them twice at the beginning and maybe a little bit at the end. But do you think that's accurate, and why you've identified those people as the people that you hire for CBUSA?
Yeah, I mean, we take a lot of pride in adding value to your company. So like when we wake up every day, our whole mission is to add value to our network. And how do we do that? Like, we're not salespeople. We're not out trying to tell you, hey, we're out saying, look, here's what we know. Here's what we've learned over our experience in this industry for 26 years or 30 years, or we got people that specialize in lumber on our teams, people that specialize in national contracts, people that do all these different things. So at the end of the day, we can help your company, Mark D. Williams Homes. How do we help you? We help you buy better. We help you. We bring insight that you might not have thought of on your own. Like, hey, Mark, here's what 750 builders around the country are doing. Like we were talking about today in a cost plus contract, little things like that, little tidbits of knowledge that like we can help you with, and then we have something actually to help you with. So we're pretty proud of the team that we've built, and when we come into a new market, we have a process, and it takes as soon as we get the builders interested, which is usually pretty easy. Once we get the right builders and meet the guy like you and put us in the right room with them, then we start adding everything, and 120 days later, we have a fully functioning market. Like, we have 35 of them around the country, and hopefully 36 coming up here soon.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that specifically. So, I had met you obviously through Brad Levitt. I remember the first time I met you was actually on a video. You get a video from me. I believe I was in the video, and you're like, who is this guy? And it was Brad gave me your cell phone number and say, hey, you've got to basically video bomb Ryan. So
I have that video somewhere. That's all.
You have to send that to me. Yeah. I'll post that when this goes live. That'd be hilarious. But it's going back to this referral thing, right? I mean, it's like one person leads to another. So anyway, long story short, I wanted to bring you on the podcast, and you said, hey, if I'm coming to town, can you find 15, 20 builders that want to have lunch, and I'll just tell them a little bit about what we're doing. Amen. So you flew in. We had lunch at the Cove in Edina. Mm-hmm. We had 20 builders there, and we met for an hour and a half. And I think you've got maybe 4 or 5 verbal commitments, even in that meeting. A lot of people are probably going to be on the fence, and then, we'll refer another 2 to 3. Is that pretty typical of how this matures?
100%. That's exactly what happens. We get one great builder that asks us to meet us and figures it out, and then we come in and we have an easy job, because it's almost like our service, our product speaks for itself, and there's real money. We always say there's no smoke and mirrors with our program. It's real savings. You can't pull the wool over a builder's eyes. I mean, business people in general are savvy owners of businesses, but I'd say builders are probably even on the heightened end of that. Very protective of what they built. Very, they're not going to bamboozle a builder. Well,
I think you're giving us too much credit.
I don't know. We've seen them pretty shrewd. So when we come in there, there's skepticism, But we win them over real quick and show them that this is a great thing, and then they're such raving fans that usually they go talking about other builders, so talking to us about other.
What appealed to it to me was understanding that it's relationship based, because I personally love relationships. I love people, and I feel like, that everybody can win. I feel like a builder can have a good career. My cabinet maker can have a good career. I want everyone around building, because it's already such a difficult career in general. Like, building is hard. It's a really difficult industry, but it's very rewarding. And I want all businesses, as a big fan of business, I want businesses to make it. And, profitability is not a dirty word. Margin is not a bad word. Making money so that you can be there to service your clients and also have a lifestyle and a family, like, that's the American dream, right? And you ultimately, this could be your new branding, like the American dream, CBUSA. Right. But basically, you're helping create that, because one thing that I'm newly awakened to, I've been building for 19 and a half years. Until you talked today, did not realize how much power the suppliers had over us, and not in a negative way, but just because they can only respond if we're not clearly identifying to them exactly how much we have going forward. I can't expect them to give me an incredible deal, because they also don't know what I'm going to do. But now, taking that law of averages and saying, whoa, as a group, hey, we're going to do 200 homes this year, give us all a little bit, of a percentage of that discount. Man, everybody wins in your scenario. So I think when you say you have builders that are skeptical, I think when you understand that, it's very logical, and I think that is the appeal to it.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. I mean, the skepticism gets won over by logic, and you start figuring, okay, if I do this, this, and this, I can be a better builder. I could be a better purchaser of materials. And one of those things we always talk about is loyalty to your vendors, to your subcontractors, and we all know that that's important, because we can't build houses without them. But that only goes so far. We have to, our advice is be loyal to 2 or 3 of them in every phase of construction, and then keep them on their toes. Make them earn it. Make them be great at what they do. Because if they're not just going to automatically get your next house or your next whatever. They got to be great. They got to wake up every day and do their job and do it well, and they got to give you what you need. Because if they do, then there's it's a partnership, and if they don't, then we always say be loyal to your family, be loyal to your employees, and then also be loyal to your subcontractor. But some people get those things a little bit out of jive. Like, I'm going to use this trade, or I'm going to use this lumber company no matter what.
And then you sort of ignore logic. I mean, so and I think I'm personally, I'm not a low cost provider. None of my clients are coming to me because I'm the cheapest builder. However, everyone is interested in value. And, whether I'm bringing value in design or the process or architecture or, the way we communicate. I mean, I'm very interested in people's value statement, because that's really important to me personally. And so I often will ask that to a client. And I think one thing that's really interesting about that, somebody brought this up today, actually, after the meeting was over, that if you're a cost plus builder and you're getting, let's just say, for an easy example, let's say you had $1 million house and you're able to save $50,000, easy numbers, $100,000. So you're able to save 10% with CBUSA as a partner. The builder is actually going to make less margin on 100,000 less. However, both the builder and I both agreed that the client is then now going to add it more back into custom cabinetry. They're going to add it likely back in maybe a pool, or they're going to add it back another way. And here's what I think is a really compelling way for me personally to sell it as a small volume custom builder, is to say, people are already struggling with price. With interest rates high now, and just in general, they're like, oh man, I don't know. Can I really afford to build a high-end custom home with you, Mark? Now I can say, not only can you and should you, but actually I have national contract relations that I can get you the same, price as part of a collective group. I'm now as big as one of the top 5 builders in the country. Little old me. I build 4 homes, but yet I can still get the same price as a publicly traded lumber company. That's a pretty cool message, because now you have the best of both.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You do. And that's the whole plan. That's what we try to do, is make sure that you guys are in a position to do that, whether it cost plus or fixed price or different ways builders go about their business, like you said. But when you can tell the homeowner confidently that they get all the perks of building with you, they get the uniqueness of your company, they get the quality of your design, but they get the best products in the country, for a much better price than any other builder your size could get it to them, that resonates with people. And that's about the total cost of ownership. We call it TCO. That's what we really think about with everything that we do. So like national contracts, when we do those, it's TCO, it's value, it's price, it's rebates, it's model home incentives, it's marketing incentives, it's all the different things that go with that. When we're dealing with a local supplier of some sort, it's all TCO. It's what's the quality, what's the service, all this.
So let me ask you this, and this isn't meant to be disrespectful. How many cities are you guys currently in?
35.
Why are you not in 100? Because honestly, with a message this compelling, it's like, it's like selling an ice cream cone in the desert. Like these things got to be flying off the shelf. Like what is going on here?
I mean,
where's the objection? I know there's a lot of work, and I'm saying this somewhat facetiously, but like honestly, like it's so low hanging fruit. How could people possibly not want to move forward?
We're growing. When we got acquired by Builder Trend, we've increased the people on our team, our capacity, but it's really kind of a capacity issue. We've just kind of grown slowly where we've been asked to go, and there's probably another 35 markets we could be in.
Okay.
So
it's people. So we need.
But our program's not for everybody, though.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some builders that hear our message and say, you know what, I'm not into working with other people. I've always done it myself. And or I don't pay my bills on time. When we start throwing our message out there about, in order to get the best, to ask for the best pricing and the best service and the best quality, you got to be great yourself. And a lot of builders kind of at that point bow out because they're interested in 90 or 120-day payment terms. They're using the supplier as their bank.
It's funny you say it. Well, there's people on our market, and I've kind of been on the opposite end of this, and probably to my own detriment. Early on in my career, if I got a bill from you on a Thursday, I paid you on a Friday. And my subs loved me. I mean, who wouldn't? They paid. I just didn't like owing people money. It drove me bananas because I don't like debt. And there's some good things with that and some bad things. I've seen now as I get older, it's just a lot of chaos. I mean, if you come with a regular term and say we pay every 30 days, it becomes more formalized. Everyone on the team, it just becomes a more regular pattern. And I thought this was interesting for myself personally is I polled my subcontractors about 2 years ago when we were switching to we're going to just do a monthly draw. We're no longer going to pay you every time we get an invoice. We're going to wait until the draw. I asked my 20 best suppliers, and they said, we didn't even know you were paying us weekly or daily. And here I thought it was a huge advantage. I thought they loved me because I paid them so quick. 90% of them didn't even know.
That's interesting.
And so I was like, well, man, okay, well then I guess 30 days is just fine. Now, obviously, if you get into the 60, 90-day thing, that's no bueno. And a lot of, and I just don't think, it just, especially on a cost-plus company, we're always going to be in arrears anyway in terms of billing. Well, if you go out 90 days, you're financing your client's build, and that's just not a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, but no, that's true. I mean, that's interesting when you say about that because I think a lot of vendors probably only check their mailboxes they assemble everything and then they have a monthly billing process and accounts receivable jumps in and does their thing. So you're paying them every day, and they don't even know that it's coming. But there's a big difference. 30-day net 30 is a big industry thing. Most vendors have that net 30 payment schedule. But a lot of builders don't adhere to it, and they got to chase it.
And I can see sometimes why it's hard because we do a monthly draw. And so let's say, we ask for all our invoices, let's say by the 15th of a month. Then we'll submit it to the client, let's say on the 25th or 30th. Well, sometimes they might drag their feet. Sometimes they might be out of town. Sometimes there might be a question. It might hold up the whole draw for another couple of weeks. And so that is it is not that easy to keep that cash consistent in terms of money coming in, money going out. And yeah, you need a little bit of a float.
Yeah. And nobody's perfect. I mean, we're not saying our builders are perfect around the United States. There's things that
but they're doing better than most. I mean, and they're not using their subcontractors as banks. They're honestly trying to pay their people in a reasonable amount of time and trying to keep things moving.
That's exactly right. And that's noticed, appreciated, and vital for those guys to step up and give the best pricing that they possibly can on the best products because they got great teams. These people, they're paying their people. These vendors are paying their folks every they're getting a paycheck.
Every 15 days.
So if we're not paying them, well, some people say, well, the homeowners, some builders say, well, the homeowner's not paying me on their draw every 30 days. Why do I have to pay? Well, that's just how it goes. You have to, if you want the best, especially when labor's tough, and now allocation like the last 2 years. I mean, there was only so much stuff being made, and those lumber suppliers are all those people. They weren't taking on any more business. They were just sticking with what they got. So you didn't even have a lot of options. Really, the power swung in their favor. And then who are they going to work with? They're going to work with the people that are the best, the builder of choice. The people that pay that.
You mentioned something today that I thought that was interesting. You had said that most vendors would be happy to drop their bottom 10%. Yeah. Can you expand a little bit on that thought process? Because I thought that was an interesting point.
Sometimes we talk to vendors. We have 1,300 vendors, suppliers around the country, and a lot of times they say, "I'm at capacity." And when we first sit down, we start saying, "Hey, you know what? You only have the business of 5 of these builders, and there's 20 of them." Their first instinct might be like, "Well, gosh, I'm already running hard. I don't know how I can service another 15." And then the next, once they start thinking about it, it's, wait a minute, I don't have to add. If I really am truly at capacity, then drop your bottom ones that you chase. In any business, I think your worst 10% take up 90% of your time.
It's the 80. It's the 80-20 rule, yeah. I think, right? That 80% of your work comes from 20% of your people, but also 80% of your problems come from 20% of your people. It seems to be pretty common.
Yeah. So get rid of that bottom group and put in CBUSA builders that are going to pay you on time. That all the good things that come from it. So that's really what we talk about with that, and that's what the vendors mostly do. And then they love it because they have an account that's not just one builder. They can come drop into one of our monthly meetings, and they can talk to 20 of their customers at the same time, roll out a new product, talk to some, so they love it.
This episode is brought to you by Adaptive. Adaptive is an AI software that helps you solve all your bill pay in the construction world. In construction, bill pay is quite messy. You get every single one of your subcontractors submitting different types of bills, different formats. This AI technology is able to take all that information, help you auto code it so that the days of endless hours of coding it into your software and into QuickBooks is now done much, much faster. Additionally, they're working on software that will help you with the draw process. So whether you're submitting it to a title company for payment or a client, with a click of a button, you can now initiate draws as well as tracking your lien waivers. It's been an absolute game changer for us. So if you're looking to speed up and save time, I'd highly recommend Adaptive. You can find out more about them at adaptive.build. Additionally, you can listen to Matt Calvano and I talk about their company in episode 15 on the Curious Builder podcast. This episode is brought to you by Manomin Resawn Timbers. Based out of Hugo, Minnesota, this talented family-owned business goes all around the country, taking down barns, reclaimed beams, and then repurposing them and putting that American spirit back into your homes, your commercial projects, your bars, your pubs. They've been in coffee shops. They've been all the way to New York and Ralph Lauren to the homes in Minnesota that we build. I couldn't be more proud to call them a partner and a proud supporter of our show as well as our building. So whether you're an architect, a designer, or a builder, I highly recommend Manomin Resawn Timbers for any of your reclaimed wood uses. You can find out more about them at mrtimbers.com, as well as episode number 10, where we interview them on our podcast. Yeah, that's very interesting. One thing I think that's important to let our listeners know too is I'll use custom cabinets as an example, right? That it seems to come up a lot. We're not going to be able to give away a competitive advantage or something that we truly believe in that can't, let's say, be mass produced across, like my custom cabinet shop. There's no way, I'm guessing, he could do 20 of our builders, right? So is it based more on commodities and larger produced items than it would be like specific like ornate rails or plaster, some of those things that take probably a lot of labor too. Is that accurate?
Yes, mostly a lot of the material commodities, lumber. We start with lumber and drywall and roofing and concrete and
siding,
exactly, all that stuff. And then we do have a lot of those intricate things too, but they can only service so many people. So maybe that custom stair company or railing company you mentioned, they might pick up a couple more builders to round out their arsenal, but they're certainly not going to work with the whole builder group. So we may need, in a lot of cases, 5 or 6 different vendor partners in a category, just to kind of properly service all the builders, depending on geography and all that stuff in the market.
Right. Interesting. What has so even when I met you a year ago, Minnesota and Minneapolis specifically was on your radar even at that point in time. Was there a barrier to entry? I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of cities you could go into. Why Minnesota and why now? Versus, let's say, other markets.
Yeah, and when we narrowed down, what we do is we have like a grading scale of all these markets around the country, and we look at our 35 markets that we're in, and we look at the best ones and what makes them the best, and what we did, and how much time and effort, and what all that recipe, and then we say, okay, well, how many permits, how many starts are there in a market, how many builders are there that are doing between 5 and 200 homes a year, and we have all this data. And we start crunching it and figuring out all the different markets that are good for us. And then we come up with a grading scale. So right now we're working on, at any given point, we have 6 or 8 or 10 markets that we're working on. Right now in Kansas City and Omaha, where our parent company is, and St. Louis and Minnesota and Portland and Tampa, St. Pete, and so all these type of, we've identified them. And then really what's changed here is, I met you.
Right.
Honestly. I mean, that's really,
Interesting. So sometimes it just takes one person to kind of flip the pendulum.
It really is, where all of a sudden you say, "Hey, this is something I'm doing. Who's with me?"
Yep.
And we get a lunch meeting like we had today, where
Yep.
18 people and 11 building companies there, and just one guy saying, because hearing it from you. You heard it from Brad. Brad heard it from other people. We have all these.
Well, and Brad's been in it, right? So it's also a word of mouth. I mean, it's not only who you trust and what they say, but there's something about experience too. And so when someone's already been into it, and yeah.
Exactly. And that Brad's been a member of ours for 8 years, or almost since he started his company, and he heard about it from a longtime builder in Scottsdale, Rod Cullum, who I've known Rod for 15 years. Awesome guy. It carries a lot of weight when a builder that you know and trust says, "Hey, I'm profiting from this." Or I'm running my business this certain way, whatever it is. Yep. You're going to listen because you respect them, and there's no more selling necessary. You're like, I get it. If you're doing it, I trust it.
And I like that word you said, critical mass. It's like all of a sudden you've got, you've reached a certain point where you're like, okay, this is happening.
Well, there's 2 things, I guess. One is we're a marketplace business, so you have to have critical mass of builders in order to start a purchasing group. One builder can't call me and say, "Hey, Ryan, I'm going to start a purchasing group." Well, you're not a purchasing group. You're a purchasing dude. That's one. We need multitudes. But it's interesting, too. We just came up with a new product, Builder Trend Purchasing. It's Builder Trend Rebates is what it's called. And it does that. It serves the one-off. You have to be a Builder Trend customer. You have to have their software. But once you have that, now you can jump on a rebate program, which is brand new, hot off the shelves. We just started it 90 days ago.
Walk me through that. What is that exactly?
So it's rebates where you can get rebates from top manufacturers around the country without having to be in a CBUSA market. It's for builders that are not in one of our markets, maybe more smaller remodelers, maybe all different reasons why maybe you don't want to work with anybody. Maybe you're not.
So you could actually be in a market, but choose not to be part of CBUSA, but still have the Builder Trend Marketplace.
Yeah, if you're not like a fit for the big program, the big CBUSA program, and you run your company differently or whatever, then you could have the Builder Trend Purchasing. So if you're interested in that and you're a Builder Trend customer listening to this, reach out to me and I'll hook you up with the right people there. I'm sure you'll pop my email on here.
Everything will be in the show notes for sure. Give me a small example. So let's say we used to have a cabin in Montana. So I'm going to pick northwestern Montana, Whitefish, Montana. So assume you don't have a CBUSA up there, do you?
No, but I want to get one in Bozeman or wherever.
I was just in Bozeman last weekend for a wedding. Let's go to Bozeman.
The Yellowstone show. That's what got me on the Bozeman stuff.
Funny.
I like that Yellowstone. So I want to get out there. But you were out there?
Yeah, I was out there for a wedding. My neighbor and architect friend just got married, and so my sister went to school out there. And anyway, we just spent some time out there. But I mean, it's beautiful country.
Oh my gosh, so. I fell in love with it. I've never been there just watching the show. But if you're a builder,
so I'm a builder in Whitefish, Montana, and I'm using Builder Trend, and I order $20,000 of James Hardy siding. Like, walk me through this practical example of like how does this work exactly?
We're building the purchasing program out right now. We're adding more manufacturers to it.
Okay.
Where it's a small program now. We only have 3 or 4 there now, but we have plans to get to 30 or 40 different programs, different manufacturer rebates.
Okay.
So jump on now if you're a Builder Trend customer and you're doing the 2 packages. There's 2 of the 3 packages that comes free. The other one there's a small upcharge. But bottom line is, it'll pay for itself. It gets you into a rebate program that.
So you're just in a rebate volume program. So it's just like, hey, I'm totally making this up. I assume this isn't even right, but like James Hardy has a program. I'm in it. It's based on 2% of whatever your total usage is. You get some form of something back. Is that how it works?
Yeah, and it's all receipt driven. James Hardy's not in it yet. They're a partner of ours. They're a long time partner at CBUSA's. We're working on them to get in the Builder Trend Purchasing Program, but it's all receipt driven too. The technology of that's the beautiful part about being owned by one of the biggest and best software companies in the country. When we come up with a new program like this, well, our they have the best software out there. So now it's really cool. You got to check it out if you're a customer. But you just snap a receipt or a picture of your receipt. It does the rest. It loads it. It does this. It loads the rebate in there. Just with your cell phone, you pop it in there. And, you have your Builder Trend app open. You pop it in, and then you get a rebate that's right into your account. So it couldn't possibly be any easier. And as this program grows, we feel like every Builder Trend customer in the country is going to get on it. Why wouldn't they? And it's going to be a way where if you don't use Builder Trend today, you should. And this might be another reason why
to do it. It's another asset for them. That's one of the reasons why I assume they bought you.
Yeah. I mean, it's industry-leading software. It's the best out there. And, oh, by the way, another asset is you get this great, it's going to increase your profitability.
Out of curiosity, what was some of the reasons for Builder Trend to acquire CBUSA? Because walk me through co-construct. I know a lot of commercial contractors in particular and cost-plus builders use co-construct. So Builder Trend took out co-construct, which was one of their main competitors. Yeah. And were you at that time, because you were kind of in negotiation, walk us through that. That was kind of a dynamic period.
It was an interesting several months for us. So we got acquired by Co-Construct first.
Okay.
Donnie Wyatt was our old guy that ran it, and he came on. We had negotiations with them, and we thought highly of them, and we made the decision to sell to Co-Construct. And then about 3 months after that, Builder Trend bought Co-Construct and subsequently us.
That sounds like someone who buys land, and then before they close on it, they've already sold the land and the job to somebody else.
Right, exactly. That's a good analogy.
Way to be builders, Co-Construct.
Right. So they and now Dan Houghton is their CEO and founder, and Steve and Jeff Duggar are the co-founders, and we got to be great buddies with them. Brian Pavlik and I, and we go out there all the time, and they're awesome people. I mean, they started, Dan and Steve and Jeff, they started a company in '96 out of their garage, and they've grown to be 30,000 customers worldwide, and everything that they've done. But they're great guys. They're down to earth. They're grounded. They're like long lost brothers of ours. So we always enjoy going out there. And they said that they didn't even realize what they bought at the time. They knew Co-Construct had a company called CBUSA, but then when they really made the deal to take out their biggest competitor and join forces, they found us. And they, Dan says it was kind of the cherry on top. They've had a good time, and now we're really we have the power of them behind us now, and our instructions are to continue to do what we do and find great builders and grow to more markets, and it's great to have that firepower.
Well, I mean, you can probably tell I'm a bit of a ham sometimes. So I met Dan just briefly at the Builder Show, and I got one of the Builder Trend white hats, and I walked over to him with my pen and asked him if he'd sign the underside of the bill. So I have a Dan Houghton signed Builder Trend hat.
That's probably worth something.
Oh, it's definitely worth at least an interview.
I'm sure he had a funny quip, but you guys would get along real good the more you. But he's a great guy, a lot of fun to hang out with, and it was a heck of a booth over there at the
wow!
the IBS show,
I mean, the International Builder Show. Talk about I guess that leads into our next point of networking. But I mean, anyone out there listening, I still can't believe it's taken me 19 years to go to the Builder Show. I've always wanted to go, but having 3 small kids and just thinking, I always thought like, well, I'm a local builder in Minneapolis. Like, why do I need to go to an International Builder Show? Like, and I don't spec a lot of products in my homes. I trust my designers and my architects, and my trade partners, but I so undervalued the power of networking and just seeing what else is out there. And it has absolutely lit a fire under me in terms of just like expanding your horizon. It's like travel. I love travel because I feel like it makes you a better person. It helps you relate to other people in different cultures, but I also feel like you learn a lot. I feel like the Builder Show is like traveling, if for an analogy, essentially.
I agree. That's awesome. So that was your first one.
That was my first one. Yeah. Now I plan to go every year.
Go back, yeah. So it's end of February this year. It's the latest one that that I've seen. But
Which works out good because last year it fell on the same weekend as my annual boys ski trip to Montana. So I didn't get to go skiing for the first time in like 30 some years last year because I chose the Builder Show. My wife said it's one or the other, it's not both. And so now
That's
there's
awesome.
there's a 3-week period between the two. So now I can do the skiing and the Builder Show.
That's
so
awesome.
life
That's
is good
even
again.
better. That's even better. You end up learning so much at that show, though. I mean, it's hard to explain that show to somebody who's never been. It's like a trade show on steroids. I mean, it was craziness, and you got like Kohler's booth that's like multi-millions, and it's like a city. Well, but it's like not your people picture a trade show was like a little stand here with like a couple seats there. It's like no, this is.
I mean, they've got running water, they've got lights, they've got jungle. It's like the Rainforest Cafe. There's like animals hanging out of it. There's like monkeys swinging. I mean, it was unbelievable. Kohler's booth was.
Oh yeah.
It was like
They used to have a lot of like swimsuit models all over the place.
Did they
but
really?
I think they canned that for. I don't think you can do that anymore.
Well, that's too bad. I was really looking forward to seeing you in a swimsuit next year. You'll have to up your sponsorship. Hopefully, you don't get bought by Kohler, or they'll definitely bring that back.
That's funny, man. They're a great partner of ours, though. I mean, all those guys there at Kohler, all those people, they're big, great supporters of ours, and we're blessed to have partners like that. Builders like you guys, and partners like them, and suppliers that make it all happen. It's a cool industry that we're in, and sometimes people don't. Younger people newer to our industry, I try to give them a little tidbits like older people in the industry gave me about this is a great industry that we're in, and there's home builders associations, and there's all this national, and there's so much pride in our industry, and you wonder why people put so much time and effort into our industry, and then you're in it for a long time, and you start realizing that, what, this is pretty neat, and all the things that come from it. The Builder Show is a great example. It's a reminder of like, wow, we're in one of the world's biggest industries. We're building stuff, and that means we're building families' biggest purchase they're ever going to make, and we're connected to, it's a leading indicator. Housing is always a leading indicator of the economy because if people are building homes, life's good.
Yeah.
If
I mean,
they're
it's
not-
so tied into the American dream. And so, I mean, we could have a whole podcast just on that. One of the questions I wanted to go back to is you have this thing called the Power 30. I don't know much about that. Tell us a little bit about what the Power 30 is, because it's coming up here in September.
You got to come. You got to come at some point next year.
Next year.
Yep. You're in September in Austin, Texas. Yeah.
So it's always in Austin?
No, it moves.
Oh, okay.
It was in Boston, Massachusetts last year. It's been all over the place. We move it to a cool location every year, but it's really an opportunity for CBUSA builders to get together and have a great conference and talk about industry stuff, about CBUSA. Some of it is like where we're going and what we're doing as the nation's biggest purchasing group for home builders by far, where we're heading with it, getting the advice of our best builders. And then there's industry speakers. There's speakers from outside of our industry. It's all the networking. It's really one of the coolest events, and we put it on with our national manufacturers. So all of them are there, the top people from every one of our national manufacturers, and you're ending up at a great property with like 100 of the nation's best. Our top 30. That's why it's called Power 30. It's actually CBUSA's top spending 30 companies. Plus, in addition to that, a whole bunch of other builders that are CBUSA builders as well that are very influential in the industry that just want to come. Anybody that wants to come can attend, and the best manufacturers. It's really neat. It's you like it when
Is it a 2-day deal, 3-day?
Sunday to Wednesday. So we
Okay.
always fly everybody in on a Sunday and start Sunday night and then leave on Wednesday. But it's one of our favorites of the year. It kind of gives you goosebumps, like that kind of firepower in a room for 3 days. It's neat. So you'll fit in real good.
Yeah. Oh, I'd love it. I mean, I love meeting new people and even having the podcast. I mean, one of the reasons why we in July decided to go weekly is the first 9 months, everything was Minnesota based because it was important to me that all our interviews be on camera. I just feel like that was something that's obviously the podcast, most people listen to it, but I feel like as an interviewer and as someone that's talking to someone, it's just much more natural and more enjoyable to have a face-to-face conversation. And if I can coincide a interview when someone is traveling to town like you are, so much the better. But now we've made the decision to, I want to reach out to the rest of the countries, but there's so many builders, throughout the country that I want to share their stories. Hearing people's stories and then bringing people together is something that gives me a lot of personal joy, but I feel like people's stories need to be shared.
That's awesome. Well, you've done a fantastic job just in the time you've been doing this. I mean, you're a natural interviewer,
Well, thank
and
you.
you're very you're Curious Builder is a great name for it because you are that. people, the smartest people ask the best questions. And you
Well,
always-
I'm working on it. I do like this roast of myself when I told my wife I was starting the Curious Builder, which oddly enough, I was on Brad's podcast a year ago, actually almost today. We're recording this right now in August. It was about a year ago today that we aired, and it was 30 days later I started the podcast because I'm like, I was interviewing with Brad. I'm like, I'd never even listened to a podcast before. I'm like, this is amazing. I so enjoy this. And Brad's just like, oh boy, here we go.
So that's what got you into it.
Yeah,
huh?
I was on a podcast. So, and then after that, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this.
I love the concept of doing it in the studio here, though. I've done a whole bunch of podcasts, but this is the first one I've done in studio. All the other ones have been
And
virtual.
you are officially the first guest that has ever flown here to have a in-person interview. So you set the bar pretty high now. So, if someone wants to have the interview, I'll say, well, I don't know. Ryan Lipchek actually flew here for it.
That's right. They'd be like, who?
Yeah, right. Yeah, who?
Well, I'll put a plug in. This is a fantastic studio, a great destination here in Excelsior. I'd say it's worth the trip to come out here, not only to hang out with Mark, but to be on this prestigious podcast.
Oh,
So
I like it,
appreciate
prestigious.
it.
We might have to quote you on that. As we're wrapping up, I had two questions that I wanted to run by you before we get to some personal stuff. One is, at this point, you've interviewed thousands of builders. What are some things that you've seen across the country? I'm always really interested to see, what are some common themes, common traits, common threads that you see among your builders? And now, because we understand that CBUSA really only takes on the best of the best, the cream of the crop, you are surrounded by the most talented, the most skilled, and the best business people. So it's really an elite group of people that you represent and are a part of and really have organized. What are some common things that you see, regardless of what market, that if someone was listening that was going to start either a building company or just really any business could say, wow, those are some things that I want to put into my business?
That's a great question. I'd say first thing is listening. I'd say a lot of the best business owners that I've met, and I've really tried to grab this from them. And I talked about this in a thing I was doing last month. But don't just try to solve people's problems until you understand what they are. And I think no matter what you're selling, no matter what you're building, no matter what you're doing, take the time to understand your person, listen to them, find out what their needs are, and then seek to address those needs. And I think that's what the best builders do. They don't just start saying, oh, you're interested in a house? Well, I'm the best, and here's why, and here's what I'm doing, and here's what you need, and they're like, wait a minute, I didn't even tell you what I wanted yet. So I think listeners are undervalued, I think, in any business. That's great. And then being forward-thinking. I think trying to find a forward-thinking company that's willing to adapt and change, being able to be adaptable. I think that's the best thing that I've seen that successful building companies and probably business owners in all industries, but this happens to be really the only industry that I know for my whole career. But you have to be adaptable because things change. Yeah, and then being a problem solver. I guess my list is getting longer here because, if being able to be adaptable, because there's so many different problems to solve. And this year you might need to conquer interest rates that are double what they've ever been. Well, how do you get people to move off a 3% interest rate to double their mortgage right now? It's tough, but there's ways to do it. Do they need a house? Do they not need a house? Are they going to refi in 2 years or 4 years anyway? It's a different conversation. Whereas last year it was more, we couldn't get material. We can't buy material. I don't care what it costs. I can't even get it to the job. It's like there's so many, you mentioned it earlier in this podcast, being a builder is a tough thing. You can't just go and build a house. No one knows how to do that. That's why they pay builders to do it, because it's hard.
Right. I mean, you do hear about people. I played tennis with a guy who, remodeled his own house and took him 3 times the amount of time and probably double the cost. And after the end, he's like, oh man, he's like, next time I'm just going to hire you. And I'm like, well, I told you.
Exactly.
I don't take any satisfaction with that. I mean, there is more skill here. I think when you build for a long time, I think any career, I think you've done it for a long time, you sometimes don't realize how much you know or kind of what skills you accumulated. And so then looking back, because it's kind of fun sometimes to look back at yourself when you first started, and you're like, wow, I really knew nothing. Yeah. And, luckily you had a whole bucket of gumption, and you just, you worked off of that bucket of gumption. But
one of my builder buddies in Texas had an analogy. I kind of forget what the doggone thing was, but it was something to the effect, if you go to a restaurant and you eat whatever they're and then you can go home and you think you can make it yourself, and you know where I'm going. And it's like, well, go to, you think that because you built a deck or because you can pound a nail or you got a screw gun or something, you're like, I could probably go do this myself. but it doesn't equate. I mean, there's so many things that go into what we do, 30,000 pieces and parts, and dealing with municipalities and trying to find the labor and dealing with the banks. You have to have a different hat on every day to do what you do.
I was just my uncle built for 30 years, and I suspect each generation has gotten less and less ADHD, but I suspect I have some remnants of the family tree in me. And I think actually this business works really well with people with attention deficit disorder because you're constantly your attention is constant. It's like a squirrel. I mean, if you actually track the number of things that you did, or the number of fires that you put out, or the number of calls, and it can be really overwhelming because it's not a very linear line. And I will say this. I can handle a lot of balls in the air, but I will say that I really appreciate partners like a Builder Trend that help bring order to the chaos. And I think at the end of the day, the reason why it's so complicated is you're building that's so emotional on top of it. It's the most expensive thing you'll ever buy, usually. Right, yeah. It's the most emotional thing because it's your family. It's where you're going to live. You look at it every single day. And on top of it all, we're building a one-of-a-kind thing, at least as a custom home builder, outside in the elements. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing we get as much right as we do. Yeah. And, it's held to such a high standard because of those first couple things. So and really, the standards are really set at a point that aren't achievable. Yeah. And so I think it's really on us as builders to educate our clients, like, hey, we love what we do. We really value our relationship with our not only our trade vendors and our people, but there has to be some grace in this too, and knowing that we're doing the best we can. And there are definitely times that things don't go according to plan, and that is the partner you want to be aligned with. How they handle it when it really goes poorly probably says more than it does when things go well. And I heard a great quote recently where it was, "Don't judge me by my worst days. Don't judge me by my best days. Judge me by what I do regularly in between." I think that is really, that's awesome. That's a really great quote. It's too long to fit on my bumper, but
I'm gonna use it. I like that. It speaks to the consistency of a builder, of a company owner, of anybody that shows up.
And we don't always get it right. I mean, I haven't always done that the right way. And you sort of learn. You're like, oh, I had a client one time where we had a driveway, and for whatever reason, I think the city actually required, just comes to me now, I haven't told the story in decades. But anyway, long story short, the normal driveway width here was like 16 feet. And I think when we went to get the final CO, I wish the building inspector would have brought this up earlier, but evidently without a fire hydrant on the property, the driveway had to be 24 feet wide and a hammerhead turnaround for a fire truck. And so the driveway ended up being, instead of like, if my memory goes, instead of like 10 grand, it was like 20 grand. And the client was furious that I didn't know that. And I kind of said, this is kind of a gray area. Like, I don't know the fire codes of a fire truck and that turn radius. And nobody ever brought this up from the city either. So it's kind of on them. But I just said, you know what, how about this? I'll split the cost with you. I'm sorry. I guess this is a learning experience. And he, to this day, still brings that up as like, he goes, that's why we chose you, because of how you handled that. And sometimes we handle those good. That was a good story. I've had plenty of that I didn't handle it or how I should have. But man, you learn a lot from those things.
That's a great story. And he ended up getting a bigger driveway.
His money. He got a bigger driveway.
He got something.
He got a bigger driveway, and I got a story out of it. I guess $10,000 of that driveway is mine. I should go back and see if I can at least skateboard down it with my kids.
Right. Well, to your point though, there's a lot of things that go into building that's just weird. Brad and I were talking about this because you got, it's built outside. It's built in Minnesota. It's built in Cleveland. It's built in 110 degrees in Scottsdale. It's built with it's weird. Nothing's built outside. When you build outside.
Well, and I do think the future, you spoke about it recently, I think even on Brad's podcast, where it was like, panelization and offsite is going to help us both with cost and affordability. It's going to help us with labor, because as the labor pool shrinks, how are we going to be more efficient in building? And I know they've been doing it in Europe now for a while, and we've been very slow to adopt those types of building practices. That's right. We're a very stubborn bunch of people.
Very, very true. But it's sweeping across. It's going to be there. I mean, we could frame a house in a week that takes you 8 weeks. I mean, so it helps you with cost. It helps you with labor crunch. It's the way to go. It's going to happen, and it's coming.
And we need it because we need affordable housing. I mean, there was just Housing First Minnesota is our biggest housing advocate here in Minnesota, and they just published something again, actually just yesterday on LinkedIn, and it was, basically the median average price in Minnesota was like 524, which was like 70 to 80,000 higher than all the surrounding states. Which for us in particular, I can't speak to it because I don't know that much about politics, but a lot of it has to do with city codes, maybe some other regulations that are added on, a variety of things. But on top of it all, we are in a place where we need more affordable housing. And, a little bit like, CBUSA has the ecosystem of the ocean. I think that the ecosystem of the ocean applies for, we need starter homes, we need mid-level homes, we need high-end homes, we need custom homes, we need remodels. Like Minnesota specifically, we're 60 to 90,000 units short of what our population needs. So there's a great need for more building here and quickly, because we need housing for our people. Because if you get to a point where you don't have housing, people leave the state. You lose your numbers, and all kinds of bad things happen, in terms of the Minnesota GDP, if you will.
That's a pretty healthy number, though, 60 to 90,000.
Is it?
I think that's probably...
Is that normal from what you've seen in other markets too? That
And
everyone's that
depending
far
on
behind?
Depending on where you're at. I mean, there's a time and a place where there's way too much, where there's a surplus.
Yep, that's not good.
And that's tough on our industry, back in 08, 9,
Yeah, that
10.
was bad.
So I think it's hard to be at zero,
No,
but it's
yeah.
that's interesting.
But it does two things. I mean, ultimately, it's hard to get affordable pricing if there's such high demand. So, and I mean, obviously, partnering with CBUSA would be one way to leverage that down to make it more affordable, which is great. That's one lever. But there's multiple levers that we, I think, especially in Minnesota, but just really across the country, need to be mindful of, because housing is a fundamental need, and so people need places to live.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why it's such a resilient industry. But right now, I mean, it's fine. It's bouncing back. It was a little bit of a lull there for some people, but it's trying to bounce back strong because people need housing.
Well, the demand is there.
Plus, now all those mortgages are back out there now that you heard about back in the day. Not the ones that sunk us, not the bad ones that 8, 9, 10 stuff, but the ones that you're gonna refi. You're gonna refi in the next 5 years, so you might as well build what you want now. What are you going to do? Wait for interest rates to go down? They're not going down again. Those days of those being 3, those are done.
I agree. Same with costs. I mean, is someone going to tell me that the cost of of high-end windows, or any window for that matter, is going to be cheaper 5 years from now than it is today? No. So it is still a good time to build and a good time to buy.
Oh, exactly. I saw that 50. You look at that 50-year interest rate thing.
No.
That's what you want to look at. You
Oh,
want to
50. Oh, I see. Looking at it over 50 years.
You want to show your customer that. You should have that laminated and thrown it in front
Email
of
it to me.
every
I'd love to see that.
single customer. And because then that puts it in perspective. Yeah, it's at 7 now or 6.8 or whatever it is now for a 30-year, but you're judging that off of the 3s that it was. What you need to judge it off of is the 19 that it was
over the 50 years
when your parents bought a home, or that's so the price of money is what it is, but it's going to level out. I mean, it's probably if anybody knew for sure, they'd probably be owning an island, but they say it's going to level out in the 5s. It's probably the healthiest place for it to be.
Yeah.
It's probably a little higher than it's going to be. What are you going to do? Delay buying because it's going to go down a point or point and a half when you're going to refi anyway in the next 5 years.
Right. Yeah. Just make sure your partner or you're partnering up with a builder who uses CBUSA. You've just lowered your interest rate, and you should build now.
I love it. Yes,
closing
sir.
plug. Last thing, just on you personally, what would you say? How do you self-educate? What are some ways that you kind of stay? I mean, I know you're talking, you're networking, but obviously you've been doing this for a long time. I guess how do you stay sharp? Kind of on your own, if you will.
Yeah, definitely. I read a lot of books, and I stay plugged into all the HBA stuff that comes out and the NAHB things, and I try to read all that stuff about the things and the trends and the metro studies. And Mark Bowd's a good friend of ours. He's a big industry speaker, and as far as all the different stuff that's coming, forecasting, he's usually at the Power 30, and I think he'll be there this year. And just staying plugged into all the new things, the IBS shows, the regional shows, all the different stuff. Talking to our builders. I mean, we have the best building companies in the country. So sitting down and spending the day with you and seeing your operation and seeing how you build homes, seeing your office, and, you just pick up so much from all that. And I have the greatest job in the world because I get to go to,
all of them,
hang out with the best builders in the United States and see their trials and tribulation, what they go through, what they wish they would have done different, what they've done great, and then have that.
Have you thought about writing a book? You'd be in a very great position to get all this knowledge and put together like 2 decades worth of
One day.
knowledge into a book.
One day, that I probably will do that. It's a good idea. We'll co-write something.
All right, we'll need a ghostwriter. We could just, anyway, you have more exposure to this than I do. So if you could go back to the beginning, what advice would you give yourself in your career?
That's a good question. Right out of college, I jumped into the building industry and didn't know a whole lot about it, and I would have probably held on to some stocks there that I sold. But I think be a little bit calmer and listen. I always tell everybody, listening is the most undervalued skill, and I wish I was better at it back in the day. Calm down a little bit. Listen. Don't think about the next thing you're going to say. Don't think about what you're going to respond. All that stuff. Just kind of relax and take it all in. And then formulate your next thing that you're going to say, because you end up, the smartest people I've known over all these years are the best. They're calm, they're listeners, they take it all in, and then they advise. You don't have to speak right away. Sometimes silence is okay. Take a few seconds of silence after somebody says something and think before you reply. That's not bad. In this day and age, it's like somebody gets done talking, you got to be like, that's not going to do this, but wait. So I tell myself at that age, just relax, take it all in, and
That's phenomenal advice. I wish I'd heard that, 42 years ago, the day I was born. Thank you very much for coming on the show. If people want to reach out to you, what's a good contact for you?
This is fun. Thanks for having me. Spending the day with you has been fantastic. Ryan at CBUSA.us is my email.
Okay.
CBUSA.us is our website. If you want to go, there's inquiries on there. You can see what 35 markets we're in around the country, and if we're in your market, and if not, you'd be interested in starting one like we're starting one here in Minneapolis. BuilderTrend.com is awesome website there. We'd love to talk to you about BuilderTrend or our new BuilderTrend purchasing program if you're a BuilderTrend customer, and anything you need, reach out to me and I'll point you in the right direction. But thank you, sir.
Very good. Thanks for coming on, and we'll have everything in the show notes. Thanks for tuning in. And if you enjoyed what you listened to, please give us a 5-star rating. And if you don't, just don't rate it. Thanks again for listening to The Curious Builder. I'm Mark Williams, your host, signing off till next week. Thank you. Thanks for listening to the Curious Builder podcast. If you like what you listened to, please give us a 5-star rating and write us a review. It really means a lot. It's a great way for us to just understand what you like about the podcast and what we can keep doing. So like and review, and please share with your friends and family. Find out more at CuriousBuilderPodcast.com.